With President Trump now becoming the first U.S. leader ever impeached twice by the House of Representatives, focus now turns to the Senate. The trial is unlikely to begin before Trump leaves office on January 20th, but there is a lot of speculation about what to expect once the proceedings get underway. Columbia University law professor and constitutional scholar Philip Bobbitt joins me now from Austin, Texas, to discuss. Professor, it's really great to have you on Quicktake. A president has never been tried in the Senate after his term has ended. Is this even legal?
Probably not. The Constitution is quite explicit about this. Article 2, Section 4 reads, the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Once he leaves office, President Trump is no longer a civil officer of the United States, and he can't be convicted of any of these crimes.
So what does that
mean? The Senate, anyway.
Well, what does that mean for a Senate trial? I mean, does that mean that Mitch McConnell essentially got his cake and can eat it too by saying, oh well, I guess the Constitution says we can't try him, but I don't agree with what he did, but we got to move on.
I think that's probably exactly what it means. It's very frustrating. I know it's irritating to many people. Certainly, incitement is ample grounds for impeachment. The president's behavior was egregious constitutionally. But it's in times like that when we want to make sure we're turning square corners and not be provoked by a particular demagogue into doing things to get at him that are constitutionally unsound. And the Constitution is quite clear about this, as are recent precedents like the Nixon case.
So where does this leave Democrats? Democrats obviously want to send a clear message that this type of behavior will not be tolerated. Democrats also want to make sure that Trump is prevented from ever running again. And I think it's also fair to say at this point that some Republicans agree. We saw 10 Republicans in the House yesterday vote to impeach the president. What options does this leave Democrats with in the Senate?
Well, in terms of preventing President Trump from running again, I think there's no constitutional way to do that. Having said that, remember that the president lost the House, he lost the Senate, he lost the presidency. So I think we can trust in the voters to determine whether or not he ever holds office again.
That's a good point. I do wonder, though, about what it means for politically, right? And leaving the constitutional issue aside here, which obviously you've laid out for us very clearly, does that mean that he will not be tried in the Senate? Does that mean that the Senate really can't do anything? Do you expect, even though you think the Constitution does not allow it, but does that necessarily mean that a Democratic-led Senate will not try?
No, not at all. They might very well try him. They might even convict him. They might try to attach a penalty that he can't ever hold office again. However, if they do that, they've moved from the non-justiciability of impeachment, that is, that courts can't oversee impeachment. You can't take an appeal from impeachment. They've moved from that into a whole other realm, the realm of the bill of attainder. A bill of attainder is an act of a legislature punishing someone without a trial. And by trial, I mean an ordinary criminal trial, not a trial in the Senate. It's possible to prevent someone from running again if you have removed him from office pursuant to a Senate conviction, if he is a civil officer. But once you take this to be just open season on anyone who has ever held office, then you've moved into the bill of attainder grounds, and you don't have the safe harbor of impeachment anymore, and this would be subject to a review by courts.
What about when it comes to moving away from being convicted in the Senate and impeached after post-impeachment? What about legal liability for the president once he leaves office? Does he, in your opinion, face legal liability for what he did last week?
I would think so, and that raises the question of whether or not the president can pardon himself. One of the sort of fallacies about the way constitutional law is often taught and understood is that we think that if there's no Supreme Court case on point, we're really at sea, but that's not right. Our public, journalists, other officials use the same methods that courts do: the text, history, structure, the ethos, the prudence, the precedents, and all of these point in the same direction. A president cannot pardon himself. And if President Trump tries to do that, he'll still be subject to federal prosecutions.
And you think that would hold up in court? You think he lay this out for us how he would do this? He could pardon himself in the next 6 days, but it wouldn't hold up in court.
That's right. He would pardon himself. He would be indicted and prosecuted and tried. And as a defense to that trial, he would interpose his own pardon, and the court would dismiss it.
What about pardoning his members of his family?
Well, I suppose that if it were shown that he pardoned members of his family or anyone else as a way of obstructing justice, if he was trying to pardon someone who had evidence that might be used against him, then that might cause him problems. He might want to think twice about that, however, because if you pardon someone, they can't interpose the Fifth Amendment plea and will be required to give evidence. So he has some tricky waters to navigate if he wants to try and use the pardon power to prevent prosecutions.
Well, this all leaves us with the question about what the Biden administration should do when President-elect Biden becomes President Biden. The president-elect has spoken about the need to unify the country. And of course, he's also entering office amid a historic pandemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. If you were advising President-elect Biden, how would you suggest that he handle President Trump and the legal issues surrounding what Trump did last week? Not just that, but throughout his presidency.
You know, I think he's handled himself impeccably. He's got just the right sense of priorities. First, he's going to attack the COVID problem and the distribution and production of vaccines. Then he's going to address our problems with the economy. Then he's going to try to repair our alliances that are in some disarray and disrepair. Those are our priorities, and those are the things that Biden is attending to. He's been very calm, very steady. He has been provoked by Trump's demagoguery. I think he's doing a fine job. But as to prosecutions, he could just simply refer this to Judge Garland, who's, as you know, a very respected jurist.
Yeah, he was almost on the Supreme Court. But the question remains about the Senate, because if that is indeed what President-elect Biden hopes to do starting in a week, and the Senate is tied up with this unconstitutional trial of a president who's no longer sitting, how do they pull both of those things off?
I have no inside information, but I'd be very surprised if President Biden, as he will be in a few days, wanted to press an impeachment trial after President Trump had left office. That would surprise me. He's been so steady and so consistent, kept his eye on the ball. I don't think he would make that a priority.
Philip Bobbitt, Columbia University professor of federal jurisprudence. Thank you, Professor, for your time. Fantastic for you to join us this afternoon.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quicktake now for insight in an instant.